a sort of slightly watery version of sunshine here, which is quite nice. Hopefully, I think it's all right for the camera though. Okay, so let's begin. Just the usual warm-up exercise. Keep going. I'm just going to increase the screen size. Okay. For me, it's been an interesting few weeks. I've had quite a few clients come to me who find themselves in a situation of what's it all about? What's the point? And for me, that's something I've been studying for 30 years. What's it all about and what's the point? But trying to deliver in an hour and a half, my theory of everything is quite a trick. Because I genuinely believe that this is a 3D simulation that we're playing in. This wonderful life that we lead is just an expression of consciousness. And that consciousness is the grounds of everything in our universe. But trying to explain how I've come to that conclusion is quite difficult. And so I've been thinking about the spiritual journey that I've been on. And spiritual tends to mean the whole idea of not conforming to religion, I think is the first place we start. When we start to see through the holes that appear to poke through religion, the inconsistencies and the fact that, for the last 2,000 years, we've been using religion to justify having wars with each other and things like that. It doesn't take long if you really apply yourself to discover that religion has some fabulous tenets woven into it, that it's been co-opted, as with everything, by man who wants power. And so the validity of religion drained away from me at a very early age. And then I was left with nothing. I just didn't feel there was any point. And so I just took up a kind of atheist stance of not really caring about, whether there was anything or not. That's fine in your 20s, you can kind of get along with that. But then moving on to my early 30s, the question arose, several questions arose, especially around the death of my father, around my own personal circumstances with my adoption and so forth. And then when we started to have children, we lost a child very early on, a miscarriage. And you start to wonder why, why do these things happen? What's the point of that? How does it all work? And so that's really what started me on my journey of discovery. And I'm sure you've probably heard me tell before, but I had an interesting experience where a medium helped me to talk to my father. And if you come from a religious background where there's no such thing, then to have a very lucid conversation with someone who's passed away was a kind of like a mind-blowing experience. And so, of course, people question as to whether that's true in its essence. Was it really the case? Was it something that I just wanted? Was I being led? All of these kind of things. And they can make stage magicians and mind readers things do these kind of tricks for you. For me, it was exceptionally real. And then you have to question, what is real? What is reality? So if we're working on the basis that this is just like a game, just like putting on a VR headset and playing Jeremy in a very intense way, then why shouldn't that be real? Why shouldn't that be part of the game, a subroutine? Yes, talk to your dead father, why not? So that's why I have this completely open ideal these days about, reincarnation. Why not? Heaven and hell, yep, if you choose it to be so. Talking to people from the Pleiades stars, yes, why not? Because I think that within the bounds of this life that we lead, all of these things are possible. But I think that also within the bounds of our death, all of these things are possible. And so I see life and death as a yin and yang cycle. I see that when you're in your life existence, we're playing the game like this, and then who knows what you are playing in your death existence. I still think it's part of the game. I still think that that is what goes on. And I think that consciousness operates throughout the whole thing. And so if you've decided you're definitely going to go to hell, then perhaps that's the thing that you'll experience. And that's perhaps how the stories of hell sort of come back to earth. When people finally reincarnate, they have some terrible sort of memory of things that have happened. And then they write, what's the terrible part of the Bible at the end? I'm sure you both know the name of it. I'm trying to think, yes, written by John, I think, and it's all full of the apocalyptic kind of stories. Perhaps that was, memory at some level for somebody of how terrible things were, because they kind of expected things to be terrible. And other people who expect things to be lovely, well, they're going to have an experience. Other people expect to come back. Yeah, sure, why not? All part of the story. And so time seems to play a big part of this. So let's just extend our exercise and move a longer version of this, a longer, slower version of this. So time seems to be the crucial denominator. Time appears to mark out this awake stage for us. And then when time stops for us, that's when we move into the other side of our game, which is, labeled death. But we have so many experiences of people talking about life after death, and then regression to other lives, and then life between the life therapy, where you can find out what it's like, before you're born and after you die. And all of these experiences, which don't fit into the Western scientific model, I think they fit into the expression of no time, essentially. So when time is not happening, we're in this other realm. And so as consciousness, we express ourselves. So in this life story, we have this ability, this story line, if you like. 90%, I would say, of people don't bother to go looking for what it's all about. 10% of people know there's something. It's probably an 80-20 rule, because so much in life seems to be governed by 80-20, 80% of people, 20% of people. So perhaps it's 20% of the world are looking for answers about what on earth is going on. What is this all about? And 80% of the world don't really care, just sit in front of the TV, live, die, and move on, go around again. And so perhaps we have this 20% of people who are seekers. We have this whole idea that the ego is this thing that is a bad thing. We must destroy the ego. But actually, I think the ego is the seeker. I think that's it. I think the ego is what moves us forward. And as John, my colleague, points out, it's just a question of whether your ego is in balance or not. I think the ego is the driving force that moves us through time. And so I don't see the ego as being this huge, great problem as such. And so we just gently move forward with this ego inquiry. And sometimes the whole spiritual journey can lead you right up the wrong path. You can suddenly find yourself becoming a guru, becoming put on a pedestal. It's such a shame that so many of these schools of yoga, and I'm sure Qigong in China as well, but we often hear about yoga in the West, about how there's all sorts of problems with leaders becoming sort of sexual predators, and the church has got its own set of problems with that as well. Power corrupts. It's the usual story. And so I feel that the journey, it was really encapsulated for me by one comment I read. So let's just slow down for a second. Let's just bring ourselves gently to a stop. We'll consider this point in a moment. Let's just gather the hands into the earth and draw some chi through. Oh, lovely to see you guys here this morning. So just bring the hands to the belly for a moment. Just settle and sink, bring the mind back inside. So I was just considering the ideas of the spiritual journey through life. And I'd spotted this quote that I really liked, and it just says, true spirituality is not about transcending the world and glorifying yourself. It's about transcending yourself and glorifying the world. I thought, yeah, that's absolutely lovely. Really, really perfect. Transcending yourself and glorifying the world. And realizing that that really is the truth of it. So spirituality tends to lead us to this whole idea that we have to sort of break through and transcend our worldly being and leave it all behind to become these wonderful spiritual people sitting on a mountain top and things like that. I think that's totally missing the point. I think the reverse is just by moving past the self. And so the only way to really do that is to look each time, each instance, each thought, each emotion, and just say, yeah, but that's not me. That's not who I really am. When you have a reaction to something, the emotion goes off and you think, grrr, and you think, okay, no, but that's not really who I am. That's just part of the story kicking up. And so as long as you can start to work with your ego, understand that the ego is not a bad thing. Just understand that anything in balance is correct. So this is a standard thing we see all the way through Taoism. Never too high, never too low, never too fast, never too slow. Just the balance right down the middle. And so same with ego. Raging, huge ego. No. Tiny little ego, oh, poor me, No. Just got to be absolutely in the center. Gently helping you to move forwards. Gently being your outward expression for the outside world. But just understanding that even that is not who you are. Just transcending that is where we really find out where the truth lies. Transcending yourself and thereby glorifying the world. Okay, let's go into our second little exercise. We'll just do some simple forward and back bends. Allow the body to drift down. Sink and relax. Take it nice and easy. Just hang and relax. Softly work towards your toes and release. In line with the roots of your toes. Let's release. Heading towards your instep and release. Working back towards your heels. Okay, let the body hang and relax. Lift the tailbone up behind. Push the tailbone to the front. Curl the spine up. Head, arms, and ears follow. Stretch up into the blue sky. Nice long stretch. Releasing knees and hips forward. You lean back. Up and gently back. Up and back. Up and back. Hands up in the blue sky. Now the left hand down. Right hand down. We're just drifting through these this morning. Left hand down. And right hand down. Good. Bring the right hand back up. Let's just roll over nice and easy. Let the body sink and relax. Take the weight off the back of your neck. Extend softly towards your toes. And release. The roots of your toes. And release. Towards your insteps. And release. Towards your heels. Relax and release. Body hangs. Tailbone lifts up behind. Push tailbone to the front. Curl spine up. Head, arms, ears follow. Stretching to the blue sky. Knees and hips go forward. You lean back. Up. And gently back. Up. Gently back. Up. And back. Hands up into the blue sky. Let's do our gentle side bends. Curl the left hand down. Curl the right hand down. Left. And right. Left. And right. Okay, good. Hands up into the air. Let's run through straight legs, drifting down. Relaxing. Sinking down. Keep the legs straight. Let the body stretch. Extend softly towards the toes. And release. Roots of the toes. And release. Insteps. And release. Heels. And release. Gently hang, lift the tailbone up behind, push tailbone to the front, curl spine up, head, arms, and ears gather up. Stretch up to the blue sky. Leaning gently back. And up. Back. And up. Back. And up. Back. And stretch up. Allow the hands to drift down on the left. Allow the hands drift down on the right. Left. And right. Then draw up. Last time through. Curl over the head, arms, the ears, legs stay straight. Work your way gently through your back and relax your way down. Nice and easy. Just allow the body to hang and relax. Tummy tuck. Extend softly towards your toes and release. Towards the roots of your toes and release. In steps and release. Heels. Good. Let the body hang. Tailbone lifts behind, tailbone pushes to the front, spine rolls up, coming up to full height with a decent stretch. Releasing knees and hips forward as you lean back. Up and gently back. Up and back. Up and back. Good. Hands in the blue sky. Left hand bend. Right hand bend. Left. And right. And then bring the right hand up over the crown of the head. Just allow the chi to pour through the body. Draw the hands down. Gather chi a few times. Draw the chi to the belly when you're ready. Just hold the hands on the belly. So the little sort of discourse I was starting with, this idea of ego, spirituality, your spiritual journey, this life, the simulation that is this life. I think what I was getting at is that there are definitely two, well, probably three phases when I think about it. And then it comes to the simplicity of the Om symbol. I use the Om symbol as my kind of watchword very often. The three little circles that make up the main body of the Om symbol. And they're described as waking, dreaming, and sleeping. I think that's really crucial. It really describes well what's going on for humanity. There's an awful lot of us who are just in deep, deep sleep. There's then a section of people who are dreaming. This is this idea where you suddenly think there is more here. What's going on? You know, I think I can escape from all of this. And you start to see for what it is. You start to journey. And then eventually there are the people who are awakening from that, of which we find ourselves, as I said, perhaps 20%. So there's the people who are firmly asleep, 80%, the people who are firmly awake, 20%, and the dreaming state is a liminal space between the two, where we transfer from one to the other. And then there's the line drawn between those three curly bits and the dot. And the line is the, as Lou says, old world, new world. So everything that exists in the waking, dreaming, sleeping is part of the old world. And so you can be awake in the old world. You can know that all of this is just a game that we play, that consciousness plays to to gather more information, to understand itself better, to experience the world that consciousness has created. So this is being thoroughly awake in the dream state. We know it for what it is. We can see through reality. We can start to understand that nothing actually matters. So for instance, we're all focused on war and the borders, I suppose, between East and West, and that both China and Russia are threatening the West, and the West seems to be threatening Russia just as much in a very quiet kind of way. And so we have this constant interplay and constant fear and constant things going on. And everybody says, oh, we'd love to have peace. But when you think about the rest of the world, there's a vast amount of peace going on. There's a vast amount of peace in our world. Let's think about how many people exist on our planet. They're heading for 8 billion. How many of those are actually in conflict on every day? It's certainly not 4 billion. I don't think it's 2 billion. I'm not sure it's 1 billion. I think it may be even, the hundreds of millions right down. We keep on working our way down to the amount of people who might be in conflict. Perhaps you might find 100 million people in sort of conflict situations, less, 10 million people. Anyway, we've got down to a tiny percentage who are actually directly in conflict on a daily basis. Ipso facto, there's a vast amount of peace. But the fact that we want to have world peace doesn't make sense in the picture of yin and yang. Because if you work for total world peace, the implication is that that will end up in total world war at some stage. And so the constant toing and froing of human nature is how we learn. It's how we grow and move forward. So there will always be conflict in this two-sided game. And it'll always question you. It'll always ask you, how do you feel about it? What do you want to do about it? What's your response? So a friend of mine leapt up and took a van full of food down to Poland to help people who were refugees. His response was very direct. Other people go to DEC and give money to help in the conflict. It's interesting, we all have different feelings and different responses about these things. And he would never have done that. His life was very sedentary and normal, but he suddenly leapt into action to do this. That's a turning point in his life, a pivotal moment where things have changed how he feels, changed who he is. And so without these stimuli to make us change, life would just be exceptionally vanilla with nothing happening at all. We need to have people at odds with each other, families that push each other, because we learn through these things. And hopefully we move forwards, we would progress upwards, let's say, although there's no real kind of, score or direction for these things. But we like to think of it as being, up is better than down, as it were. And so we sort of hopefully move upwards in our own personal trajectory. We improve, but never lose sight of the fact that everything takes place in the old world, in the game, in the simulation that is your life. Never lose sight of that fact. It's all part of the story that consciousness has given you to play out. beyond that dividing line between old world and new world is living in total consciousness. And that is not something you can make happen. So people who find true enlightenment don't ever find it. True enlightenment finds them. So we can all work away at the concept of it, chipping away at where true enlightenment might lie, searching for our true selves, and by constantly recognizing the fact, this is not me. That's not what I do. That's part of my story. Gently hollowing away and cutting away the crust around the outside that you believe to be you. The more space you make inside, the more you realize that those stories are not who you are. The more you realize that your ego can suddenly become huge and suddenly become tiny, the more you realize there's no balance there. The more you work away with these ideas, bringing your ego to balance, to make it a simple tool in your life, not an epic event, the more you realize that none of these things are actually who you are, the closer you come towards this idea of consciousness. And so I've spoken before plenty of times about the sort of moments I find that occur. They don't happen regularly, but they happen from time to time. In a standing meditation, I'll dissolve and just become at one with the entire universe. Total unity consciousness. Just for a little while. And then, oh, hello, back into life again. So these little feelings of unity consciousness, this total connection with everything, this bliss, this oneness. I think it's the fringes, the outer fringes of conscious unity mind. And I think the idea is to put yourself in that place often enough, and eventually you'll get picked for the team, perhaps. Maybe not, but who cares? Putting yourself into that right place, time and time again, is the only tool we have. And realizing that this game, all of the gurus and all of the teaching and all of the spirituality and all of the blah, 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 is just part of the game. Everything I'm telling you is just part of the game. See it for what it is. Don't believe a word I say. Goodness, that would be a big mistake. Just see it for what it is. No more little signposts pointing in the direction. Only you can find out where the true self lies. And perhaps one day you'll find yourself in this total unity conscious moment. And perhaps you'll find yourself living in total unity consciousness, where you no longer exist, where your body happily moves through this life, where you can play Jeremy when you want to and switch Jeremy off forever if need be, where you can just exist with absolute oneness. And so I think the more you move towards that understanding of total unity consciousness, the more the problems that you've developed during the game can be let go of. Because when we start to see them for what they are, I have, insert into the brackets here, Parkinson's disease, cancer, heart disease, whatever. All of those are attributes you've given yourself for the game. But they're just as easily put down in the game once you realize that they're just part of the game. I had a terrible childhood, my father died when I was young, my mother was an abusive alcoholic, whatever it might be. All of these things are attributes that you've given yourself in the game. None of them need to color your life anymore. Just see them for what they are. Chapter 11, Jeremy becomes a city broker, spends all of his time drinking too much, staying up too late. Okay, let's close chapter 11 and move on to chapter 12. That's just a story that was written down many years ago. It doesn't have to be something that still holds this story of mine. Close the chapters, see them for what they are. A story that you developed, a storyline that you developed, a storyline that can be dissolved. So last week's storyline on EastEnders or Coronation Street, constructed by lots of people, built up, acted out, and now gone, stuck in an archive somewhere, finished. What's the story for this week? So that's the question, is what is your story for this week? What is your story for next week, next month? It's all just a game. Why not invent a really crazy story? Why not invent a story that leaves you in total good health, that leaves you free of all of the problems you perceive you have? A groundbreaking episode for the new series of your life. What are you going to create? More of the same? Or this time, new actors, a new way of being, a new presentation of you, new fortune, new happiness, new joy, new health, surging through your character's body. Power up. Your little Pac-Man character, boom, 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 going along, eating the dots. And eventually you get to the power pill. Boom, your Pac-Man character flashes. Powered up. Power up your life. Let your Qigong be your power pill. But let everything else, let your whole life fill with energy. So I think one of the crucial ideas to make this work is to find that space between what you think is you and what truly is you. So I come back to my lovely, dearly departed friend, the barefoot doctor. Stephen used to say, just imagine yourself like a character, a little Buddha, sitting cross-legged at the back of a cave, and the cave is your head. So you imagine right at the very back of your head is your little Buddha character, sitting there, cross-legged, sitting on a nice, comfortable couch, looking out through the windows of your eyes, looking out through the portal of your mouth, as it were, being able to see the world outside, but sitting back in your body, safe. And it's kind of like the back of the body is the static part where nothing changes. The front of the body is where all the action takes place. We're always kind of moving forwards, doing everything in front of us. We do very little behind us as such. And so behind you has this kind of different energy, yang in front of you, yin behind you. And so you sit back into this kind of yin calm place and you observe the outside world. So just remember, even the observer is a fake, but it's a good position to take. It's a good starting point. We make up this observer person, and the observer is just a very passive, empty part of your being. The observer sees the people around you. The observer sees your house and your family. The observer sees your job. The observer just watches all these things completely passively, not saying that's good, that's bad, because judgment takes us from unity into duality instantly. So allowing ourselves not to judge, placing ourselves in a space of total unity. It's one of the key steps here. Events happen. Deeds are done. And you just hold yourself back from the passing of these events. You observe them. These deeds, you observe them. From time to time, you do your own deeds. Something is required, something is done, end of. So I just finally got myself a new second-hand car. And it took a while to think about it, and then I made the purchase. And from then onwards, I haven't thought about cars for a moment. I put my money down, drove my car away. It sits on the driveway. End of story. There's so little point in me thinking, did I choose the right one? Will there be a problem? What do I look like in it? What do people think of me? There's just nothing to be done about that. It required doing. So I set out, made a decision, did it, and walked away from that decision. That is now in place. No further required energy. So this is how we need to conduct ourselves. Feel inside for the answer. There seems to be a problem brewing with my partner. What can I do? So inside, what's the truth? You should say X. Sit for a moment and think, does X feel like? Yeah, okay. It came from a very real place. That's exactly what I should say. And then you go and you say, this is how I feel about it. This is what I think about it. And then that's it. Said and done. Step back. Allow it to be. See what changes and unfurls. The deed is done. The event has occurred. Step back and observe. So as this observer person, we're gently taking in the vast vista around us. We're taking in how the other players are moving and playing. But we're not saying good, bad, just is. Creating space between their intense stories and us. The more space we grow between, the less the old patterns that lie inside us get triggered. Try and make this space always. Try and hold yourself back from their emotional thrusts. Try and be invisible so that when somebody comes to try to damage you, hurt you, they just go straight through. There is nothing there. No story left to trigger. Make yourself invisible every day. That doesn't mean that you're not an active person. It doesn't mean you're not here in society. Our ego is there to front up for us. Our ego is the thing we present to people. This is what you see of me. This is how you interact with me. But I'm just gently standing back and allowing the ego to talk and do its thing. And hopefully I've tamed it so it's become well behaved and knows how to deal with the social niceties of life. But now I stand back and I observe. Imagine standing in a room, and across the room, two people are conversing. And as you stand there looking across, you find it's your partner and yourself. You watch how they interact. Did your ego seem to be a bit cross there? Did it seem to be a bit hurt there? Send it some love, support it. Stand back and allow yourself to be totally invisible. Become your true self. Open yourself up. Allow the chi of the universe to flow through you. Just remember, you are the chi of the universe. So let's just expand ourselves with Kai. Feel the universality of yourself. Feel yourself open. Feel yourself dissolved into the chi. Let's open ourselves further with Kai. We open ourselves up to this vast level where it's no longer ourselves that we've opened. The terminology becomes a bit more difficult because at this level, you are me and I am you. We start to realize we've never been disconnected. Start to realize this, that in that room, your avatar talking to your partner's avatar, but that you and they are one. If you hurt them, you hurt yourself. When they hurt you, they're only hurting themselves. So we stand back from this little play and we understand that this is all part of the learning that goes on in our daily 3D regime, 3D game. You see those avatars trying their hardest not to fight, trying their hardest to have a civil conversation, to work things out. You think, well done, doing well. Send your love, unconditional, to those situations. So whenever those situations arise, step back, allow your unconditional love to fill the space. Just realize that anything you do to hurt someone else just hurts you. Ostensibly, I suppose it doesn't really matter because it's just part of the game. But I think that this is the one thing, is that we have this urge inside to do better. We have this urge, which is part of time and ego, that makes us want to move forwards and upwards to improve. And that's why humanity has evolved and changed. Evolution is driven by that urge. Evolution is driven by time and ego lifting. And so whilst we realize that conflict will always be with us because yin will always be opposing yang, we just realize that we have to do the best we possibly can for ourselves, for our avatars. So we have to bring the best possible experience we can. So as unconditional love, we can support the situation. We can flood the situation with love. And as our avatars, we can just try and do the best we possibly can. So open space out between your ego and yourself today. Open out, open out. Dissolve yourself deeply into this unity consciousness field. This is absolute unconditional love. This is bliss. I think that these sensations of bliss and unconditional love are just the foothills. of what comes next. And I feel that even when you find your way to this distance and this space, even when you draw this space between yourself and your ego, even when you live in unconditional love, there are bumps there, plenty of bumps to be found. This is when I discovered that Dr. Pang had been talking about what I jokingly called enlightenment light. Just sort of the beginning part. Enlightenment light, and then there's enlightenment sort of sugar-free, and then there's full fat enlightenment and so forth. Because even we discover that nothing is straightforward, that everything has layers, and that there's bumpy ground to be covered, even with this journey into total consciousness. Don't be harsh on yourself. Just accept that everything is right. Nothing is wrong. And so whilst things feel dramatically wrong in the Balkans, whilst things feel dramatically wrong between East and West, just remember nothing is wrong. Everything is exactly as it needs to be. And as soon as we come to that acceptance level, that the people who are playing the game and are coming to these conflict situations, they've chosen to play the game that way. They've chosen to make new learnings. They've chosen to find new ways of being. So who knows what may come out of this? Perhaps in 10 years' time, we'll look at this war and think, things changed dramatically between the East and the West at that time. Who knows? Nothing is ever right or wrong. It's only by judging it that we make it so. So just allow consciousness to flow. Allow there to be space between you and the reality. I'm very much doing air quotes when I say reality. Because duality that we experience every day is just a game. Unity consciousness is the real search we're going for. So again, transcending the world and glorifying yourself. No. Transcending yourself and glorifying the world by it. Yes. Simple as that. Nice and easy. Gently transcend the 2D game. And then be at one. Total love with the world around you. Glorifying it by your ability to separate from it. Gentle, kind her. Every time you open your hands, make space. Every time your hands come together, unconditional love pours into your game state. Couple more times. Let's go a bit more quietly there. Move in silence twice. You gently draw our hands back to the belly. Left hand on for guys, right hand on for ladies. Just let the hands settle there. Body relaxes, mind expanded. Chi flowing through your body. Body open. Blood and chi flowing well. All functions of your body returning to perfect working order. So if your hands are off the belly, you can put them on the belly. If your feet are apart, you can bring the feet back together again. I think we just close out from here, let the hands relax down, and then gather them up into the prayer position. Take the hands up in front of the face, up over the top of the head. Expand up into the blue sky. Let the hands drift down a little bit. Open up little fingers, ring fingers. Hands come down to shoulder height. Gather and draw chi round to the front. Send the chi deep inside. Apadantian chi is abundant. Blood and chi flowing well. All functions. Brain, normal. Drawing back the elbows and the hands underneath the arms. Lightly touch Dabbao. Send chi deep inside. Middle dantian abundant. Blood and chi flowing well. All functions of the organs return to perfect working. All functions normal. Drift the hands back of the hands move forwards, turn the palms over with a flourish, send a wave of chi out into the blue sky, gather that chi back for lower dantian, draw the chi deep inside and hold the energy there. Lower dantian chi, abundant, blood and chi flowing well. All functions normal. All functions of your body normal. All functions normal. Feel that idea in every cell of your body. Everything working well. All functions normal. As you stand here, just imagine yourself, your weight chi layer protecting your body. Around that, you have the chi body, you, a being of light. Inside your wonderful chi fields and shields, protected, happy, well, everything in your life working well. All functions normal. All functions of your body normal. Just turn 3 circles anti-clockwise around the belly. Drawing all excess chi into the core of you here. And then we go 3 opposite direction. Just drawing chi in, holding it, storing it, closing the body down, ready for daily mode. We'll let the hands relax down by the sides, open the eyes, bit of a shake, bit of a wiggle. Yeah, good. And then we can say howla together. Hands in the air and say howla. So if you'd like to unmute yourselves, we'll say howla 3 times. So, hands up. 1, 2. Howla. 1, 2. Howla. Last time. 1, 2. Howla. Lovely. Thank you very much. Really nice to see all of you guys today. Have a lovely sunny day.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Caroline.